This is the first interview in the kilns. Okay. So, how did you end up working in childcare?
How I started in childcare, I started off studying my level 5 and level 6 in Montessori teaching, and then from that I went on to do my level 8 degree in early education, and I just recently graduated in last November, and I started here about nearly 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
So I'm only newly appointed here.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been kind of eager. I've always loved working in childcare, and I've mainly worked with 2 to 5 year olds. That's the age group that I've mainly worked with throughout my experience so far. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting, yeah.
Cool. So, like, you'd be using Astra curriculum when you're teaching the kids, yeah?
Yeah, we may base it around Astra. So each week we have a theme or a month depending on the children's interests. So we link that to Astra, so the 4 themes, just to show the evidence of how it actually improves kind of their understanding of the Astra and how it actually promotes the children's learning and development.
Mm-hmm. What sort of barriers would you find happen when you're trying to teach through the Astra curriculum?
Sometimes, depending on the theme, you might not. Some of them might not link to each theme, so mm-hmm. you're trying to figure out what is actually worth putting into the actual evidence part. Mm-hmm. So I would mainly kind of base it around like taking notes each day if the children are playing or if we're doing any specific activities, and then I kind of go back to the themes itself, and then I include the evidence and any input from the children. Mm-hmm. So probably the barriers would be just kind of making sure that you're hitting on each of the themes, that you're actually showing evidence of the children's learning more than anything, and that you're showing all the children's individual strengths, and just even using the photograph. I think mm-hmm. sometimes you don't need to put a lot of information, kind of the photographs tell us a story themselves.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. What do you think the role of play is in like supporting child development?
Supporting child development in play, I think it's very important because through play, children can actually explore themselves, their own interests, they can communicate with themselves, they can build relationships, especially if older children are playing with younger children, like there's a mixture of ages in each group, yeah. So the older peers will actually influence younger peers, and with that the younger peers' development and learning increases because they have that almost like role model, because mm-hmm. someone is actually taking the time, someone near their age is taking their time out of their day to help them improve their learning or development, or they're just building friendships and relationships through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Right, just like more about child development. Can you think of any ways it affects like their cognitive development or their emotional development?
Well, I've worked with some non-verbal children mm-hmm. Through different kind of experience, and I find play is actually really important for them and also all children, because in terms of child development they go through different stages through play. Sorry. And for non-verbal children, they kind of, obviously they don't have the speech, but they actually have, they heavily depend on basically what's in the room. So if there's something that actually interests them, they would kind of use that and build on that from that. In terms of child development as well, basically all the influential theories that we've learned in college and through experience, they have their own understanding, and you can kind of see in kind of child development kind of scaffolding and some proximal development, how the adult kind of, you know, helps and supports each child actually grow and develop through play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important, I think, in child development terms.
Thanks. What do you see your role like as an educator in the learning process for the kids?
The learning processes.
Yeah, what sort of role do you think you, like just an educator in general, plays, like in that sort of situation, like in this setting?
Well, in my kind of practice with the children, I really find if you actually ask the children what they like to play with, have their own say, what they would like to learn, it actually improves their learning and development, because if they're learning something or doing something that they really love, they would spend that time actually getting to know something that they didn't know, or learning and developing something that they knew before but they know something more of through play, or just through activities more than anything as well. Different activities, kind of indoor and outdoor, that actually expands their understanding of like a specific area of learning.
Oh, good. And last question, have you, I know that you're only recent here, but have you ever worked in an early childhood setting before the Asher curriculum was part of it?
Before it was brought in?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. Basically, since like I've done college, I've worked in places. Asher was in each place I've worked with, so I wasn't in a place where Asher wasn't like used, or before it was introduced. Like Asher is I find it's very useful, because it gives a guide of the different areas, different learning goals for the children's kind of learning and development. So it kind of gives you an understanding as an early educator, kind of just say for well-being, like how children can help themselves through play, how they can help like tidy up when playtime is over, how they can help support each other through play. So if one child was having difficulty with something, another child can help. And just kind of, yeah, I think Asher is, since it was introduced, it was obviously introduced for a reason, for the quality of the curriculum, and I think it helps as an early educator improve your practice and understanding each week as you're planning activities or themes, or even if you're kind of looking in the room at the materials you have, how it would actually how it would link to Asher. So like animals will kind of be exploring and thinking, kind of books will be kind of, you know, communication, how it kind of helps the children's communication through the visual part with the pictures and all that. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. And do you think it would help if there was like further training available in order to like implement the curriculum?
I think throughout my kind of college experience, Asher wasn't a main subject. It was basically kind of taught through early education. So we learned through that. So I think there's no harm, I think, in having additional training, because although it's something that you kind of use weekly and monthly, I think there's no harm in just improving and kind of, you know, realising what kind of you might need to improve on, or kind of how to involve and incorporate more stuff into your workplace.
Alright, cool. Thank you. That was a lot quicker than I thought it would be.